between the wall between the fridge and the freezer, those ones have a lot of styrofoam around them, so they're well insulated, and they take a lot longer to melt, sometimes up to 2 days. If you have a hot air gun or a hair dryer, you can get it all done at the same time just by heating all that up. It won't damage anything or cause any problems, and then you can reassemble it and fix it all at the same time, and it'll work right away. When all that ice does melt, it almost always overflows the drain tray at the back of the fridge that's supposed to catch the water and evaporate it in small amounts at a time. And when it overflows, of course, you'll get a flood on the floor around your fridge. And if you have a nice wooden floor, you might not like that, so you might want to get some towels ready. Another reason why the fridge may have the problem, which seems to be the defrosting problem, causing your fridge not to get cold enough, is the catch basin that catches the ice that drips off the heat, all the cooling elements there, gets clogged, sometimes just with a pea or a piece of plastic or a piece of corn, and it just keeps building up a layer of clear ice at the bottom. And a normal defrosting problem, like I showed you how to fix, the ice is always snowy and crunchy white. But if you see a whole layer of clear ice, that's called a drain clog problem. Or some actually have a heater in that catch basin that catches the water that drips off there, and that heater is broken, so every time the water drips off, it refreezes again right away and just keeps building up ice. So you have to defrost them again, get rid of all the ice, then clean out that little trough, the hole in the trough, or see if it has wires going below the trough and test for resistance. There should be between 50 and 100 ohms resistance, or maybe more, and see if the little heater underneath that tray is burned out. If you have a defrosting problem with your fridge and you're not able to fix it right away, or for whatever reason, if you defrost it like I just explained and then close it up again and start using it, it'll always work for usually up to a week before too much ice builds up again, and then of course the freezer will be cold and the fridge will be too warm. Well, another sort of electrical problem is your fridge fan. I get complaints all the time. It sounds like there's a little bird in my fridge chirping or squealing and something like that, and it goes off and on. Or my freezer is fairly cold but my fridge is warm, just like a defrosting problem, but it's a fan problem. So in that situation, your compressor's running, these coils are warm, your cooling system is cold, but when you open the freezer door, the fan isn't running. Well, of course, some fridges have a little switch that shuts the fan off when you open the freezer door, and some actually have an electronic sensor that shuts them off. So you ascertain whether it has that or not. But what happens is usually the fan seizes up, and as it's slowly seizing up, it's screeching and chirping like a bird. Sometimes it actually just seizes up and doesn't make a sound. Sometimes it starts hitting ice from a defrosting problem, and the ice stops it from turning. Most fan motors, you can just pull on the fan carefully by grabbing it in the middle, and they slide right off. You check for side play on the little shaft. You shouldn't have any. It'd be wise to oil them. Automatic transmission oil, or a really light non-detergent like 3-in-1 oil or something like that, or sewing machine oil works the best, and they have a bearing at the front and a bearing at the back. If the fan motor is going bad and there is no play, like it's not worn out enough yet in the shaft, well then often oil will fix it. So you just remove the motor. There's like a felt type material around the bearings which absorbs oil. Put lots of oil, like the kind I just mentioned, in those felt things. Make sure the motor is turning freely, put it back together, and your fridge might work for years again with the same old motor. If you buy a replacement motor, they're often the cheapest ones or the universal ones, which look exactly the same, but it might run in the wrong direction. Basically, the only thing you got to match up is the distance between holes, which is fairly common, and of course the size of the shaft. Some universal ones have a different size shaft but come with their own propeller, so it doesn't matter. If your universal one happens to be running in the wrong direction of what it's supposed to be, well then of course it won't work. It won't suck the air the right direction to make the fridge work properly. So all you do is take apart the bearing assembly, flip the armature over, reassemble it, and then flip the motor over and put it back in the other way, and then it'll run in the opposite direction. Some modern fridges have a really stupid fan motor that don't last very long. They're called the high efficiency DC low heat motor. Those motors are all white and encased in plastic, so you can't see any metal parts, and it's just two wires coming out. And yeah, they're DC, but they're electronically controlled by transistors and stuff inside. And when they burn out, they're usually just sort of jiggling a little bit and just barely twitching and don't run, or sometimes just run very slow. It's a very good idea to not buy one of those to replace it. They're very expensive. Put a universal one in and make it fit. So that's how to fix most of the electrical problems you'll have with a fridge that's non-computerized. Computerized fridges are a nightmare. One of the worst ones is those LG fridges, and LG fridges can be sold under lots of different names, even like General Electric. They have like a big metal panel at the back, could be down there or over there, and that's where their computer is. It's a pretty big computer for a refrigerator. It doesn't even make sense. And they so commonly go bad, even if you buy a new part it goes bad a short while later. Other fridges like made by Kenmore or Inglis or Sears have a computer all across here and little flashing lights, and they beep when you open them and stuff like that. Those ones go bad all the time too, and they can cause all kinds of problems like not defrosting, or the fan not turning on, or the compressor not working. And they can be consistent or intermittent, so they're very confusing. There's so many different kind of computerized fridges now, and almost always in the lifetime of the fridge the computer system will go bad, and they're very expensive to fix. So my advice is, don't buy a computerized fridge. Buy one with just a normal thermostat, one that doesn't beep and have flashing lights. That's cheaper and will last you a lot longer in the long run. Next, I'll teach you how to fix the cooling systems.